Hi guys, how are
Hi, nice to
you?
meet you.
Good. How are you doing?
Doing well. I unfortunately these are just my normal glasses, and I didn't know I was gonna match Dennis Quaid. Um,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, I'm this is gonna be a fun interview. I literally just have the glasses on. But I wanted to ask you guys, this show is so special because I think, like many women, I look at true crime as like a guide of what not to do in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, but this show focuses so much of its energy on not glorifying this man. And I think it's really special for you both. Obviously, I'm Melissa, I know that's part of what you do and your advocacy, but how important was it for you both to make sure that you nailed that tone throughout the entire show and didn't turn it into what we've been seeing with these fictionalized versions of true crime?
I'll let Jen, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I think this is Melissa's story, and that's what the podcast is, and that's what the book was. And so I always had a lot of clarity that this would be Melissa's story and that we would kind of stay in her POV as much as we could. And we do go into Keith a lot, but usually it's still you're kind of like led to him through a storyline that's affecting Melissa or a character that's in Melissa's world. So, yeah, that was really at the heart of it, not putting any violence in the show and not glorifying Keith and not really having it be about his psychological inner life and much more focusing on his daughter and the effect that he had on his family was kind of like, the intention of the whole show.
And then for myself, working with victims of crime and family members of perpetrators, uh, I definitely understood what mattered most to them and how storytelling is done about the perpetrators and the crimes that happen against their loved ones. And I felt that Jen totally nailed it and was respectful to how these stories are told. And I hope, and I am seeing actually a shift in our true crime content that we are starting to ask as an audience that's, absorbing this content is like, I feel that there's an empathy now from the audience that they care about the victim's experience in the creation of true crime. So I'm really proud of that progress in storytelling.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And it's not to be like the pat myself on the back thing, but I've always wondered about like the daughters of these killers or these families, because like whenever someone would talk about Ted Bundy, I'm like, he has a daughter. Like, how does she
Yeah.
feel about people continually making stories about her dad? So it is really interesting to kind of see that shift, and especially a show like this where it's focused on the daughter and it's being told from your perspective. Is that kind of not overwhelming, but is that strange to see, or are you just so excited that that shift has happened that it hasn't kind of weighed on the shifting narratives as it is?
What plays out in my head is that you brought up Bundy and he has a daughter whose name, she's changed her name and she's in hiding. And see,
Yeah.
that's what drives me to keep going forward with my story is I want to live in a world where it's safe just because you're related to somebody and you didn't commit the crimes, that you could actually share your real name and be a person amongst society and not be, I guess, have stones thrown at them. And I think we've made a lot of progress. But the fact that people still feel like they have to go in hiding, and I'm just giving one reference. I know many, many family members
Mm-hmm.
of killers, not just serial killers, but killers that they go into hiding just they want autonomy. They don't want to be judged. Because a lot of negative judgment comes my way from this too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
When Jennifer, for the last quick thing I wanted to ask, you know, I always think that women have a different lens on how we look at true crime stories versus men, because I do think male auteurs kind of look at the glorification of the murders where women tend to focus on the victims. Was it always your goal to make sure that like we as an audience had the empathy that Melissa does have when you're working on the show beginning to end?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think Melissa does have this, like, she leads with empathy and she leads with compassion, even after everything that's happened to her and that she's gone through. She still leads with that. And that was one of the things that drew me to Anna Lee. And when Anna Lee approached this role, she just brought that, and she kind of has that naturally as a person too, but she really led with that in the role. And so it's very easy to center that when like the character is that, the actress brings that. And I tried to bring that in the writing as well, that, yes, it's true crime. And, I hope that it's entertaining and fun to watch and suspenseful, but it is, we're trying to tell a serial killer story in a new way without violence and kind of through a different lens and through a female perspective that maybe we haven't seen yet.
I really love the show so far, and I appreciate you guys talking with me today. So thank you so much.